That's all right, Professor. Are you ready to start again?
Yes, thank you. Where were we?
Just a second and we'll pick up again. Charlie, let me know when you're rolling.
Okay, ready, and...
Professor Dyer, what did you find when you landed at the expedition camp?
The place was a shambles. All the tents were down, the equipment scattered. 11 men were dead and one, Mr. Gedney, was missing. And the dogs, too, all seemed to be dead.
Seemed to be dead, Professor?
Yes, Miss Ashton, they were in ribbons, torn to pieces. We assumed that all of them had been killed. It was difficult to make an accurate count.
You reported that the lake expedition had been overwhelmed by a sudden storm.
So I did. And with no other witness, no other sane witness, everyone accepted that explanation. But God help me, I lied.
What did you really find, Dr. Dyer?
The camp really had been pulverized. All tents were down, all bodies frozen. But they had not died of a storm. Their backs had been snapped like twigs, and the dogs had been literally ripped apart. Curiously, both planes were intact, as was the fuel dump. All the books, most of the fossil specimens were there. Most, but not all.
I don't understand. What killed the men?
We did not understand either, Miss Ashton. Not then. Not a single one of the complete barrel-shaped monstrosities remained. Those 6 damaged ones had been buried standing up, the graves marked with those curious greenish star-shaped stones we had heard about. Danforth and I radioed base camp and arranged for McTighe, Sherman, and Ropes to fly out and retrieve all the remains and the 2 airplanes. Then we filled our planes' tanks with gasoline and took off, flying toward the mountains, for we had seen an unmistakable track in the snow, as of sledges, and they led up a rampart of snow and ice toward those accursed peaks, toward the mountains of madness.
Would Gedney have taken a dog sled?
Possibly, Danforth. Those may be his tracks leading up into the pass.
But how could he have moved so fast? And how could the dogs hold out for such a steep climb?
I don't know. But as long as there's a chance he's alive... Oh, there! The trail goes right over the pass, do you see?
Yes, I do see. Hold on, Professor. We're at 17,000 feet and this pass is narrow. It's going to be tricky.
God! It's insane! Do you see it, Danforth?
Yes, maybe some sort of unknown geological force.
No, those are artificial constructions. They're buildings, Danforth, as far as the eye can see, to the north, to the south. Buildings. It's a huge city.
No human made those blasphemous structures. It's a cyclopean maze of squared, curved, and angled blocks, stone towers and ramparts, here in a land where nothing could have lived for 500,000 years.
And the tracks lead here. Oh, there, Danforth. There's a field of level snow. Set the plane down. We'll see if there's any trace of Gedney, or of any living thing.
This is an incredible story, Dr. Dyer.
It is not over, Miss Ashton. We did land the airplane in that hellish, silent city. It was a tangle of buildings made from prodigious blocks of dark, primordial slate. The general shape tended to be conical or pyramidal, though many were cylindrical, or perfect cubes. Some were 5-pointed angled edifices. All was monstrously weathered.
What people could have built this city?
We did not know. Not then. Many of the buildings had been broken open by eons of weathering, by glaciations. Danforth and I picked up, markings, suggestions of a trail. We followed it into one of those ruined structures. There we had our second great shock of the day.
It's huge, Professor.
No sign of poor Gedney. Shine your light on the walls, Danforth.
Murals. The whole wall is painted and sculpted.
Let's get closer. I can't make out any detail. Watch the floor. There's rubble everywhere.
My God! The mural shows pictures of the barrel monsters.
And so did they all. We had blundered into some kind of incredibly ancient museum or educational institution. There, painted or graven on the walls, was a curious and terrifying history. The history of the elder gods, of the great old ones, the subject of the Necronomicon. I took photographs as long as our flash guns and plates held out, and my incredulous eyes saw in fantastic detail an unbelievable story.
In an epoch so remote that not even the earth yet existed, the great old ones spread their wings and launched themselves forth through endless space.
In the frigid darkness they slept, and as they slept, the cold winds of light between the stars swept them onward, slowly.
After unimaginable time, they chanced upon the third planet from a yellow sun and descended, and they wakened from their long sleep.
And the planet had primitive life.
And the great old ones found it fit for a place of
And they began to control the growth and development of life itself.
Dwelling beneath the southern sea, they took the stuff of life and created for themselves servants.
Shapeless and formless, these creatures could assume any conformation that proved useful.
And the great old ones saw what they had done, and it was good.
It was scarcely to be believed, but the barrel-shaped organisms were indeed the great old ones of myth and legend, and they had created their servants and had made for themselves a mighty city.
Shoggoths! My God, Professor, those are Shoggoths!
I don't understand.
The Necronomicon, it speaks of them. Primordial life without shape but sentient. The great old ones created them, but they turned on their creators and destroyed them. Destroyed Leng. Destroyed this city, a city of Leng.
Get a grip on yourself, Danforth.
Sorry, sir.
Help me illuminate the next section.
For their amusement, the great old ones meddled with the life of their new world and created the great
For
dinosaurs.
millennia they played with their toys, and when they tired of them, they discarded them for
The birds of the air,
The great whales of the
A
sea.
ridiculous naked ape called man.
eons past and the old ones thrived.
Even when other invaders from beyond the stars threatened them.
Terrible eons they did battle with the encroaching Cthulhuids and sealed them forever in the dreaming city of Rilia, lost
The
beneath
decimated old ones retreated to their last stronghold where their numbers lessened. They saw the continents drift and change.
Weary of the long epoch of war, they watched all from their city of land.
Fed by their creations, by the Shoggoths.
This is... I'm not quite sure what to say about it, Professor Dyer.
Oh, I know how incredible it sounds, Miss Ashton. But I have the photographs that I never dared reveal until now. And in my own mind, I am quite certain we human beings are not the product of divine creation or of normal evolution. We are descended from the toys the great old ones created for their amusement. We are discards, Miss Ashton. That is the only word. As we followed the incredible tale on the murals, we descended, and as we did so, the story changed. The Shoggoths at some point began to rebel against their masters, even to take on the shapes of the old ones, to speak with their voices. And as the history of the plateau of Ling continued, the murals grew more and more crude, more decadent. They told of a world losing warmth, of the old one's retreat to a sunless sea.